Hello and welcome to Life After Narc. I'm Paula. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new and you like this video, please subscribe. Don't compare yourself to the narcissist's new supply. And the reason I'm saying this is because the narcissist is not comparing you and the new supply to each other like apples to apples type thing. He doesn't compare you, the old supply, to the new supply as two people, because that's not how narcissists look at supply sources. And to understand that, we need to go back to the love bombing phase when you were being love bombed. A very interesting thing was a couple years ago, I found in this big bin my love bomb letters that I got back in 2001. And it was very interesting. I was going through my divorce and I confronted my ex on all these love bomb letters because there were a whole bunch, and they were actually emails that he had sent to my work. I did not have the internet at home at the time. And I confronted him on them, and he told me that he had meant them when he sent them. And actually, I do believe him. And the reason that I believe that is because narcissists have grandiose fantasies, which means when they are love bombing someone, they are in their delusional, grandiose fantasy. And by delusional, I do not mean that they are like a psychotic person who's having a break from reality and is seeing things that aren't there. But their delusions of grandeur are so great when they are in the love bombing phase that they are really not in reality, and they're really believing all this stuff about the new supply and this grand fantasy of ideal love. And that is why we fall for it so hard, I think, because they're presenting this fantasy to us and we get sucked up into the fantasy. So it's almost like, and it's really a heady kind of wonderful thing. I mean, somebody telling you that, we're their soulmates, and they're showering with you with praise, putting you on a pedestal. I mean, who wouldn't fall for that stuff? And they actually do believe it when they are telling you that. And that is why we're falling for it, because they actually really believe it then. So we kind of believe it too. So it's like they're gaslighting you and they're gaslighting themselves too. It's one of those instances where they're believing their own lies because their fantasies are so great and you're buying into their fantasy. Because, I mean, it's a pretty wonderful fantasy to believe in. But what inevitably ends up happening, because they're a narcissist, they begin to see the real you. You are a real person, so they start to devalue you because they finally see that you're a person, you have flaws, and you don't live up to their fantasy expectations. So now you've come to discard phase, and they've discarded you. So now they have a new supply. Well, their new supply, they are not seeing that person as a real person either. They are seeing that person as this idealized fantasy. So they are not comparing you, who they have devalued and discarded, to this fantasy So they're not comparing your characteristics as a person to this new supply's characteristics as a person. You were a devalued, discarded supply that did not work out. You didn't live up to their fantasy expectation. And now this new supply is a new fantasy. So that's why they're not comparable. But what will eventually happen with this new supply is eventually they will suffer the same fate you did. They will eventually become unhappy with them. They will begin to devalue them when they start seeing them as a person. They don't live up to their fantasies, and they will start the devaluation phase with them. Now, could they hoover you? Can they hoover the new supply? Yes, they can. But you will still, neither one of you will ever be at that same level that you originally were when you were first in that love bombing, initial love bombing stage, that initial idolization phase. So what the narcissist will do to both you and the new supply when they become an old supply is they are never happy or satisfied. So what they will do, they will be like, next. They're going to be on to another supply because to them, you didn't work out, the other person didn't work out, so they're going to have to go on to their next fantasy because they will never take any blame or responsibility. To them, it will always be a failure of the supplies to meet up to their expectations. So that is why don't ever compare yourself to the supply and feel bad about yourself or feel like you don't measure up or, feel like, wow, I'm, superior to this person or I'm inferior to this person, because that is not ever how the narcissist looks. That's not how they think. To them, it's always going to be, I idolize this supply, and to me, every single time, every supply failed, because that is how a narcissist will always feel, that it's been a failure of every single supply. But what the narcissist does is just leave a continued trail of destruction behind him or her as he destroys more and more, or at least attempts to destroy more and more lies. Of course, he or she never sees it that way because he takes no accountability, because the narcissist just blames the other person continuously. So anyway, thank you for stopping by, and please leave any comments you have below. I would love to hear from you.